In the northern savannas of Burkina Faso, children no longer salute the French flag. They raise their fists not in anger, but in memory. Memory of betrayal, memory of hope, and memory of a future stolen too many times. So how did we get here? How did Ghana, the shining star of African democracy, come to stand shoulder to shoulder with Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger under the command of the man the West fears the most, Ibrahim Traoré? This wasn't supposed to happen. Not to Ghana, not to ECOWAS. For decades, Ghana was the Western gatekeeper of West Africa, praised in Washington, welcomed in Paris. But now, something has cracked, something irreversible. And the question echoing across the continent is this: what if Ghana joined the coalition led by Traoré? Not quietly, not behind closed doors, but boldly, a frontline defection from the Western sphere into the alliance of Sahel states. If that happens, West Africa will never be the same again. On the 28th of January, 2024, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, three military-led nations of the Sahel, officially withdrew from ECOWAS. They cited foreign domination, neo-colonial pressure, and a lack of respect for national sovereignty. That moment marked the birth of a new regional bloc, the Alliance of Sahel States, a security and political pact built on mutual defense, cultural reclamation, and economic independence from Western powers. But now, a new tremor shakes the region. Ghanaian opposition leaders are openly praising Traoré's leadership, and pressure is mounting on the Ghanaian government to reconsider its allegiance to ECOWAS and explore membership in the AES. What once seemed impossible now feels inevitable. Accra, Ghana, a storm was gathering, but it wasn't in the sky. It was in the parliament chambers, in the streets, in the markets. It whispered through the mouths of elders and roared in the hands of the youth who now wore t-shirts emblazoned not with Western slogans, but with the face of Ibrahim Traoré, stoic, defiant, unbent. At a downtown rally, 65-year-old Ya Mensima, a retired teacher and one-time activist under Kwame Nkrumah's revivalist wave, stood before a crowd of thousands. Her voice cracked but carried. We were told democracy was a ballot every 4 years and loans every 4 months. But Traoré has reminded us that freedom means building with our own hands and standing with our own kind. The energy was palpable. In the northern region of Tamale, local chiefs gathered in an unprecedented council. They were not debating tribal matters. They were discussing geopolitics and whether Ghana could survive another decade yoked to the economic model dictated by ECOWAS, the IMF, and foreign interests. Behind closed doors, President Nana Asare, fictional successor to current Ghanaian leadership, was caught in a storm of pressure. The West offered aid. The people demanded independence. Intelligence reports warned of rising military support for Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger within the Ghana armed forces. But the true tipping point came not from diplomats, but from soldiers. A leaked video spread like wildfire on WhatsApp. Ghanaian commandos training in secrecy with Burkinabe forces along the northern border, Nuinsiginias, Nupres, just boots in the dust. Brothers preparing for something more than drills. When confronted, the Ministry of Defense issued a sterile denial. But the people knew better, and so did the West. For the first time, African news agencies began openly speculating. Is Ghana preparing to join Ibrahim Traoré's alliance? This wasn't just diplomacy. It was rebellion in slow motion. And the man at the center of it all? A 36-year-old captain-turned-leader from Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, who now walked the continent not just as a head of state, but as a symbol of a new Africa. In Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré stood before a cracked stone monument, a silent witness to centuries of foreign domination. The dust settled over his shoulders as the sun dipped low painting the sky blood red. He spoke softly, but every word echoed like thunder. Our sovereignty is not a gift. It is a right we reclaim every day, with sweat, with sacrifice, with steadfast hearts. Behind him, aides waited anxiously, aware that his decisions in the next 48 hours could redraw the map of West Africa. For Traoré, the alliance was never just political. It was spiritual, a covenant among nations scarred by colonial chains and post-colonial puppetry. We fight not against nations, but against the ghosts of our past, he told his inner circle. News from Accra arrived late. Military factions pushing for Ghana's entry into the alliance of Sahel states had made progress. Quiet meetings between Ghanaian officers and AES commanders were scheduled in secret border towns. Traore knew the risks. ECOWAS would retaliate. Western powers would apply pressure, economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, media campaigns to discredit the alliance. But the price of submission was far greater. Across Burkina Faso, everyday citizens whispered of a new dawn. Farmers, teachers, and traders spoke in hushed tones about a future where their voices mattered, where Africa's destiny was not dictated from Brussels or Washington. The African news bulletins carried one headline after another. The Sahel's new alliance is more than a political bloc. It's the pulse of Africa's next revolution. Traoré's eyes scanned the horizon. He saw more than desert sands. He saw a continent poised to rise. And Ghana, the once steadfast pillar of Western influence, was bending. For the first time in decades, a new hope was taking root, a hope that whispered to every African heart, freedom is not a dream, it is a choice. In the shadowed halls of ECOWAS headquarters, tension simmered like a powder keg ready to explode. Diplomat paced. Phones rang non-stop. News of Ghana's wavering loyalty rippled through every corner of the building. The man they feared most was Ibrahim Traoré. Young, relentless, unyielding, his vision for Burkina Faso and the wider Sahel was no longer a whispered rebellion. It had become a beacon. At a secret summit in Niamey, Niger, the AES leaders convened. Traoré's voice cut through the heated debates. This alliance is more than defense. It is the declaration of Africa's right to choose its path, free from puppetry and profit-driven strings. Mali's general nodded solemnly. Niger's president, eyes hard with resolve, added, "We are the architects of our destiny now. Ghana joining us will rewrite not just borders, but the very soul of West Africa." Back in Accra, streets buzzed with a mix of fear and hope. The government's silence spoke louder than speeches. Meanwhile, underground networks spread pamphlets, urging citizens to support the AES vision. Among the youth, the message resonated deeply. They remembered stories of Ghana's past greatness, the Pan-African dreams of Nkrumah, and saw in Traoré's leadership a chance to rekindle that fire. But questions lingered, whispered in hushed tones. Is this alliance truly the answer? Can Ibrahim Traoré's vision withstand the storms ahead? Across the region, the media war intensified. Western outlets painted the AES as a threat to peace, while African news platforms celebrated it as the heartbeat of a new era. The balance of power was shifting, quietly but irrevocably. And at the center of it all stood a question that none could ignore. If Ghana joins Traoré, will West Africa's future be reclaimed or forever changed? Inside the presidential palace in Accra, Nana Asare sat alone, the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. On his desk lay two letters, one from ECOWAS, urging continued loyalty. The other, a bold invitation from Ibrahim Traoré himself, extending Ghana a place in the alliance of Sahel states. Behind closed doors, his advisors clashed. Some warned of economic ruin, of Western sanctions. Others argued for sovereignty, for reclaiming Ghana's true destiny. But the real pressure came from the streets. Young activists staged peaceful protests, chanting Traoré's name like a battle cry. Farmers in the north spoke of independence from foreign aid. Teachers demanded curricula that honored African history, not colonial narratives. And in the military barracks, whispers of allegiance shifted. Some officers pledged loyalty to Ghana's past. Others saw in Traoré's vision a new dawn, one where Ghana would no longer be a pawn, but a player. As night fell, Nana Asare stared out over Accra's skyline. The city glittered, a symbol of hope and challenge. His decision would echo for generations. Could Ghana sever its ties with ECOWAS? Could it join the alliance of Sahel states led by Ibrahim Traoré and risk everything for the promise of sovereignty? The question lingered, heavy and unresolved. But one truth was clear. The era of unquestioned Western dominance in West Africa was ending, and the future belonged to those brave enough to seize it. The early morning sun cast long shadows over the Sahelian plains, where the borders between Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and now, potentially Ghana, blurred into one vast landscape of determination. In a remote command post near the Ghanaian border, AES commanders and Ghanaian officers gathered. In a tense but purposeful meeting, maps sprawled across tables, plans for joint exercises, intelligence sharing, and economic cooperation were laid bare. Colonel Kwesi, a respected Ghanaian officer, spoke with steady conviction. "We stand at a crossroads. To follow the old path means continued dependency. To join Traoré and the AES means reclaiming our future." Across the room, AES representatives nodded, their faces marked by years of struggle and sacrifice. Meanwhile, ordinary Ghanaians watched the unfolding drama with cautious optimism. For many, the possibility of joining the alliance sparked memories of Pan-African dreams. Once championed by Kwame Nkrumah, dreams now reignited by Traoré's bold leadership. Yet doubt remained. Markets wavered. Investors hesitated. Voices of skepticism warned that breaking from ECOWAS might isolate Ghana. But in the villages and towns, where the pulse of Africa beats strongest, the message was clear: sovereignty, not submission. Back in Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traoré received the latest intelligence report. Ghana's potential entry was no longer speculation. It was becoming reality. He closed his eyes briefly, feeling the weight of history. The alliance was no longer a dream. It was a movement. Deep in the heart of Ouagadougou, Ibrahim Traoré prepared for what would become the defining moment of his presidency. News had arrived. Ghana's parliament was convening an emergency session to debate joining the alliance of Sahel states. For Traoré, this was more than a political victory. It was a seismic shift in Africa's destiny. His phone buzzed with messages from allies across the continent. Military leaders, diplomats, activists, all watching the outcome with bated breath. That evening, as the sun set behind ancient baobab trees, Traoré addressed his people via radio and online streams. "We stand at the threshold of a new dawn. Ghana's courage to join us in this alliance sends a message loud and clear. Africa will no longer bow to the whims of distant powers. We will govern ourselves, we will protect our sovereignty, and we will rise together as one." Back in Accra, the parliament's debate was fierce. Some warned of isolation and economic hardship. Others spoke passionately about reclaiming Ghana's independence, standing with Africa's true leaders. Finally, after hours of tension, the vote was cast. The majority chose sovereignty. Ghana joined the alliance of Sahel states. Across West Africa, celebrations erupted. Markets filled with song. Streets lit with hope. The new alliance was no longer a secret faction. It was a continental movement, and at its heart stood Ibrahim Traoré, the beacon of Africa's renaissance. Just as the world began to grasp the magnitude of Ghana's historic decision, an astonishing revelation shook the continent and the globe. Inside intelligence circles, leaked documents revealed a covert plan by Western powers to destabilize the alliance of Sahel states from within. But the plan had failed. Instead of fracturing the alliance, the attempt to sabotage only cemented Traoré's influence. His leadership, marked by transparency and decisive action exposed the foreign interference to the people of Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and now Ghana. For the first time in decades, Africans saw a leader who did not just resist colonial shadows, but shattered them outright. A wave of solidarity swept across the continent. From Cape Town to Cairo, voices raised in support of Traore and the AES, recognizing that this alliance was not merely political, it was a symbol of resilience, defiance, and true sovereignty. The stakes had been raised. No longer could Traore be dismissed as a regional actor. He was now a global icon, the face of a new Africa refusing to bow. The leaked documents revealed something more disturbing: a covert alliance between certain Western governments and select African elites, long complicit in maintaining the status quo. Their goal? To crush the AES and isolate Ghana before the alliance could fully solidify. But Ibrahim Traoré was prepared. With strategic brilliance, he turned the tables, broadcasting the truth to every corner of Burkina Faso, Ghana, and beyond. The people saw the puppeteers exposed, their hidden hands revealed for all to witness. Traore defiance became a rallying cry, inspiring a continent tired of puppetry and hollow promises. In capitals across Africa, leaders who once hesitated now stepped forward to express solidarity. Support for the AES swelled from a few military governments to an unstoppable movement. What the West feared most was no longer a rebellion. It was a revolution of dignity, sovereignty, and African unity under the banner of Ibrahim Traoré. He had transcended the role of president. He had become the symbol of Africa's rebirth. Ibrahim Traoré. Speaking at the latest meeting, we did not ask for permission to be free. We stood up to take it. The video ends here. If this story touches your soul, if Ibrahim Traoré's fire of change lights up your heart with hope and strength, then please spread it. Share this story far and wide so that every street corner, every rooftop, every African heart is awakened. Subscribe to this channel today to join me in continuing the great journey of a new Africa, an Africa that no longer bows to oppression, no longer is dragged by foreign powers, but stands firmly on its own 2 feet. We are writing history, building a future where the young generation not only hears about freedom, but also lives in true freedom. God bless Africa, the land of eternal vitality, of perseverance, and of dreams that never die.